Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai. 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 Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tasmadidam Daiva Tantram Vyavyasya Bharatarshaba Tashna Tashyanu Vihito Nata Nata Pahi Prajaprabho Tasmadidam Daiva Tantram Vyavasya Bharatarshaba Tasyanu Nata Nata Pahi Prajaprabho Tasmadidam Daiva Tantram Vyavasya Bharatarshaba Tasyanu Nata Nata Pahi Prajaprabho. Others? Vyavasya Bharatarshaba Yasyani Nata Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Davyasya bhartar shaba. Tasya nutito nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Yavasya bhartar shaba. Tasyanu nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Vayasya bhartar shaba. Yasya vindito nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Smaridam daiva tantram. Vyavasya tarshabaha. Tasyavito nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Vyavasya bhartar shaba. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Vyavasya bhartar shaba. Tasyanu nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Ladies. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Yavasya bhartar shaba. Tasyanu nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Smaridam daiva tantram. Yavasya bhartar shaba. Tasyanu nata. Nata pahi praja Prabhu. Tasmadidam daiva tantram. Yavasya bhartar shaba. Yasyanu nata. Tapahi praja Prabhu. Word for word. Tasmat. Therefore. Idam. This. Daiva tantram. Enchantment of providence only. Vyavasya. Ascertaining. Bharta Rishabha. O best among the descendants of Bharta. Tasya. By him. Anuvihita. As desired. Anatta. Helpless. Nata. O Master. Pahi. Just take care of. Praja. Of the subjects. Prabhu. O Lord.
So just a little before the translation is the first word is tasmat. So we have to read the verse before again and that'll bring us into today's verse. So the verse before was 16 yesterday. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So then today it starts off with the Tasmat. So the translation. O best of the descendants of Bharat, Yudhisthira, I maintain, therefore, that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and, my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. So a little bit of the context of this is we go back to a couple verses. I'm going to go back to actually text 46 of the last chapter. It says, King Yudhisthira was very much aggrieved. Could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyas, the Lord himself, Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence. So, Yudhisthira, the next verse is, King Yudhisthira, the son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man, O sages, and thus deluded by affection he began to speak. See if you see any parallels here to his brother Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. King Yudhisthira said, O my lot, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of men. So sometimes devotee may have to, he kills an ant or a bug, and he feels a little bad. Or maybe you run over a squirrel. It doesn't happen much in the cities, but out in the rural area, and you feel something. So remembering Yudhisthira here, whose enemy was never born, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is saying that when there's destruction of all these great warriors, the women are going to be unprotected, there's going to be unwanted progeny, the family traditions are going to break down, the people are going to dwell in hell because no one's going to do the Shraddha. And now the war's over. Of course, his son, the 5 sleeping sons, Pandavas, were all killed. His teacher, Dronacharya, he's gone. Bhishma's lying down there. He's a very sensitive, because like Yudhisthira here, he's feeling this pain. I think the next one, and not just one, but millions and millions of people, animals. So we can try to conceive of for a minute what he's feeling here. He can't be, what would it say, reconciled, He couldn't be convinced despite the instructions. So he's still having this hard time. He says, I have killed many boys, Brahmins, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers. This is text 49, last chapter. Though I may live for millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell which awaits me for these sins. There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining the citizens, but this injunction does not apply to me. So, Prabhupada points this out, that he said, Maharaj Yudhisthira thought that although he was not actually involved in the administration of the kingdom, which was being carried on well by Duryodhana without harm to the citizens. So Duryodhana was the next thing he says, it was going on all right. The kingdom was going on all right under Duodenus, but now just to have me on the throne, I've caused all this. And he said there's no precedent like this in history. Oh, I see. So, all right. I'm going to go back to just trying to get a little bit of the mood. And of course, we know that Bhishma, grandfather Bhishma, he's his friend, almost took care of Yudhisthira his whole life. You know, there's a very warm relationship there, and he's a Mahajan, Mahajana Katasa Panta. The real religious principles are situated in his heart. So the Acharya knows how to apply for time and circumstances all the eternal religious principles. So we're going to get this instruction here now. So the purport. The popular saying is that a housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. So do we understand that? Because of a relationship, sometimes you can't tell the daughter-in-law something right away. That relationship is very important for giving instructions. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita 17:15, the austerity of speech is said that you're not to give instructions to someone who is not your student or disciple if it agitates their mind. So there's a whole etiquette that he's well aware of here. So, and Krishna also. So it says the popular saying, which is one of the four types of proofs. There's four kinds of proofs that are established in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. One is Shastra, direct experience, like 9.2 Bhagavad Gita, direct perception of the self by realization, Brahman. There's what's the other two? One of them is traditional wisdom, and maybe the other one I'll remember. The popular saying, okay, so this is traditional wisdom that they're stating as a proof. Similarly, the Lord teaches the world by teaching the devotee. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord, because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. Which verse is that? Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Then for those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I'm always talking to them in their heart, giving them instructions. So, here. Whenever, therefore, a show is made to teach the devotees, as in the case of teaching the Bhagavad Gita, it is for the teaching the less intelligent men. A devotee's duty, therefore, this therefore is quite a bit here, is to ungrudgingly accept tribulations from the Lord as a benediction. That could be the whole class right there, because that's Bhagavad Gita 2:12, 2:14. 2:14, Marta Sparsa Kunteya, that Krishna, first he establishes, while speaking learned words, you're mourning for that which is not worthy of grief. So the wise person doesn't speak like this. And then he says, never there was a time you didn't exist. So there's two things going on. There's your eternal existence and how to deal with being embodied. For the embodied soul, he continually passes from youth to boyhood. So what do you have to do? He says, you have to learn something. What do you have to learn so you're not disturbed? You have to learn how to tolerate without being disturbed. And if you learn how to tolerate without being disturbed, the next verse says you're eligible for liberation. And if anybody studies on their own this point of learning how to tolerate, all of Krishna consciousness could be put into that context. Because when you graduate in the middle, there's Tatenu Kampam. We heard that yesterday, that even though things are going on that you may not fully understand, you tolerate it because of your faith in Krishna. You continue offering obeisances. And when you've actually have developed, just like Bhagavad Gita 5, 8, and 9, it says someone in divine consciousness, even though moving about, opening and closing his eyes and all the things that are going on with his body, he knows it's just the senses engaged with their objects and he's aloof from them. So he's all through the Bhagavad Gita establishing there's two, there's the external activities. Everyone's forced to act helplessly by the modes of nature, 3-5 or 7-27. We're born into delusion, overcome by the duality of desire and hate. So there's how to deal with this material energy and how to stay focused on Krishna. And we're in sadhana bhakti, which means we're learning how to do that. We're learning how to always remember Krishna favorably, Anukulina Krishna, and still carry out our activities. So how is that accomplished? That's what's being brought up here again. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, one point is stressed, is duty, to perform your duty, and then here we are, Bhagavad Gita leaves off Sarvadhamam Pratyaja, surrender, giving you the jnana on surrender, and now the vijnana of seeing how do people do that? How is that demonstrated by the devotees of the Lord? So here we're getting the same point as in the Bhagavad Gita, same tribulations about this, dealing with what's going on according to the external situation. Generally it's referred to as karma, the 5 items that one gets trained to see in the Bhagavad Gita. One is trained to see Krishna. Krishna Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna is everything and Parasya Shakti, but he has different potencies that act differently. So by knowledge, the process of knowledge, 13, 8 through 12, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, it's explaining how to separate your consciousness from the material condition. Sri Upanishad, same point, Avarujate, it says, text 11, that one should learn this process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side, and then he can transcend the influence of birth and death, and he can enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So, of course, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam was going to do. I'm a little out of sync with the way I was going to present the class, but I was going to start off with, in the first verse it says, Sattvam Param Dhimahi, that we're meditating on that other situation, the Sattva Param, beyond the illusion. And Nirmatsaranam Satam, the second verse, is to do that one purifies his heart from Matsara, Nirmatsaranam Satam, so he can understand the reality, distinguish from illusion for his welfare of all. And then Rasa Yam, the third verse, he relishes, he learns. The relishing is a very essential item in Krishna consciousness. He relishes pure devotional service in his mind, Manaso Rasena. And so we're going to continue on and try to understand what's actually taking place here between Yudhisthira and grandfather Bhishma, giving him the same instructions on, as he's pointing out here, a couple very affectionate words here when he calls them the best of the Bharats. So of course we know Maharaj Bharat, the son of Rishabdev, had 100 sons, Bharat, and then 3 lifetimes of Bharat, and he's reminding him of his great ancestry. And of course with Yudhisthira, one other point, for the Mahabharat story, people that are familiar with that, Bhishma also said how one could find Yudhisthira in the last year of exile. Remember, there was 14 years they were exiled, and the 14th year they had to be incognito, living in public without being spotted. So grandfather Bhishma knew how to find Yudhisthira, and he told them. But he told them in such a way that he knew they couldn't get there in time to actually catch him. But do you remember how they said you could find Yudhisthira? Anybody remember that one? He says, you find that place where there's no anxiety, where there's no unregulated weather, where nobody's suffering in any way. So they actually found there was one kingdom like that, and they went there, but because of the calendar, the calendar's always a little confusing. It's a leap year, leap month, there's all the different... Anyway, they got there just after the next day. It worked out, but so Yudhisthira is so qualified as a leader that wherever he is, everything is adjusted. Just like I come here almost every year, and I'm always amazed how wonderfully everything's going on. But that's not happening automatically. There's great personalities that are doing everything that you don't particularly see because of the nature of their humility. That's the way devotees think. So the same way, we are seeing this leadership. So Grandfather Bhishma here, he's saying, take up your duty. Because the citizens, they're helpless. Just everybody needs good leadership. And until you take this up, they don't know what's going on. So please take this up. It's a very heart-rendering relationship between Yudhisthira and Grandfather Bhishma. So trying once again to finish the purport, because I can't... Oh, there it is. There's the clock. I couldn't see it before. All right. So, whatever, therefore, there's a show to make... Excuse me? Ekadasi? Oh, I got you. You're telling me where my place is. Okay. The Pandavas were advised by Bhishma Dev to accept the responsibility of administration without hesitation. The poor citizens without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra. The poor citizens were without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra, and they were awaiting for the assumption of the power of Maharaj Yudhisthira. A pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulations as favors from the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, there's no mundane difference between the two. Om Ajnana. Ajnana. Om Ajnana. Timirandasya. Jnananjana Salakaya. Chaksul Miritanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaitam Suritu Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Mat Sarvasva Padambo Jo Radha Madana Mohano. So, by Prabhupada's mercy, by just hearing, following his sadhana, you hear so many things over the years. So because just being a devotee, actually my anniversary's coming up, initiated just in the other room here in 1972, Prabhupada. That was so nice. So I think about it. So just by following Prabhupada's program, you get to see things different. The empiricist, one who's in the bodily conception of life, he'll say seeing is believing. But the devotee responds back to it. There's more to it than meets the eye. So we're getting, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, 7.2. Anybody know 7.2 offhand? I'm just going to read it. You know. 7:2, yeah. All right, I'm going to read it then. It says, I shall now declare unto you in full knowledge both the phenomenal and the numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So Krishna, just like he says, not everybody's ready for this. What's the next verse? He says, out of many thousands amongst men, one may be endeavoring for perfection. So of course, I salute everyone here. We're endeavoring for perfection. Prema Pumarta Mohan. We're in the exclusive program that Srila Prabhupada has brought that's unprecedented, that this sadhana is a Vrindavan sadhana, not a Vaikuntha sadhana. Generally, Vaidhi Bhakti is for all in veneration to go to the Vaikuntha planets, but because of the yesterday Vaisheshika explained, well no, it was last night, where how Krishna comes very, he's regulated, but it's a long time in between. And Lord Chaitanya even more so, and he's giving this Namo Mahavananaya Krishna Prema Pritayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya. We say Namaha. Radha Krishna Na Anya. He's coming in the mood of Radharani. Okay, so back to so as we were saying that hardly one of those that have achieved other types of perfection know Krishna. So we're in a very limited group. By Prabhupada's mercy, we're giving that opportunity for everyone. Prabhupada one time was in a discussion and the devotee says that everybody's more or less a demon, which wouldn't be hard to see. And he said, no, they're more or less innocent. So he says, more or less innocent. He says, when you give them the book, when you talk to them, then they're given the chance to see if they're innocent or if they're envious. Because, if you start to think everybody's a demon, how would you be able to approach anybody? Because second-class devotees avoid those that are envious. And we know everybody's envious, that's why they're here. But anyway, that's we see that everyone's basically misguided. And here we having Yudhisthira being asked to take over the administration. So under his administration, everything happens so wonderfully. Everyone's engaged according to their natural inclination, and they're cultivating the higher engagement. Their Varnashram was functioning at that time. And we know what's the function of Varnashram is 1, 2, 13. Hari Toshanam. He says your activity, which you could say 1, 2, 6, is to cultivate param dharma, that this highest dharma, unmotivated, uninterrupted, pure devotional service. And when it's correct, because Krishna is pleased. So we have the spiritual master, who's Krishna's representative. I was going to mention this too. There's a nice verse. Bhagavad Gita is just wonderful. So chapter 6, verse 7, it says, for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. So by following the directions of the spiritual master, who's the external manifestation of the super soul, one is already in contact with Krishna through that instruction. So his instructions are so different from the material instructions. And the material is generally, the mind speaks in fruitive activities language. It talks in the bodily conception of life. And it's always giving you bad advice. But by following the orders of the spiritual master dutifully, one comes out of the mode of passion into the mode of goodness. And in the mode of goodness, he gets the opportunity to, just by following duty, like we'll find here, he's being recommended. Take up your duty. And of course, the way he says it is so nice, because he talks about this providence, and how does, in the word for word, it says, enchantment of providence only. So enchantment, why would that word be added, enchantment, other than just saying it's providence? Enchanting is because Rasika, he's perceiving Krishna. He's a Mahajan, Bhishma, and he's seeing Krishna's sweetness is in everything. Of course, this material world, could be seen as the tough love. This material world, we're in here for a couple different reasons. And for myself, I call it rehab, love rehab, that we've been sent here for love rehab. If you can get it right, you can leave. But right now, and Krishna, sometimes I kind of joke, I say, Krishna, any friend of yours is a friend of mine. You know how you say that? So the response is from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks to us through the Bhagavad Gita. He says, you know 529, right? I says, oh, all right. He says, I'm the friend of everybody. So if you want to be a friend of Krishna, any friend of yours, a friend of mine, you have to be a friend to everybody. So he says, just in case you didn't get it, I'll repeat it again in chapter 12. Chapter 12, verse 13, he says, he who's a kind friend to everyone. So this, Lord Chaitanya, he says, Trinata peace nichana. One should be ready, because it takes some preparation, to offer all respects to others. So that all respects means, Bhagavad Gita 18:14, which I was going to work in a different place here, is that in every action there's 5 factors. One should always see that the super soul is the 5th factor that you may not see, but he's in everything. Just like towards the end of the 18th chapter, 1861, he points out that he's directing the wanderings of everyone. And he says, you're going to still engage in whatever you're doing, but you're either going to engage by the bodily nature that you're born with, or you're going to have the extra element of devotion to me. And there's a big difference between that. 328, Bhagavad Gita says, atapmavit, one who's a knowledge of the absolute truth, doesn't engage himself in the senses and sense gratification. Why is that? He knows something. So what do the wise know that maybe if I'm not wise, I don't know? He says there's a difference. So you have to know the difference between 2 things. You know the 2 things are fruitive activities and devotional service. So this fruitive activity, this is just like we were talking about the process of nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side. Well, you know, those are 2 columns side by side, but you can put another column in the middle. What could you put in the middle of the process of knowledge and that of ignorance side by side? Devotional service, that is the process of knowledge. But there's something else. Okay, here's the hint. One's the external potency, the second part of the hint. The other's the internal potency. What's between the external potency and the internal potency? That's where we come in. That's kind of a joke, you know. It's where the Tatashta Shakti. So this is, all right, I think that I see Zavas looking over there. The clock's, I'm running out of time. All right, I'll wrap it up. Thank you. Because yeah, it was hard to see. So just for utilization of that idea of your choice, where is that choice at between picking devotional service and picking bodily conception of life? It's all pervading, everywhere. What's it contain? It contains Krishna. It contains the realization of the whole human form of life. It contains everything. So let's put that into an understanding of a symbol that looks like a three, internal, external, marginal. What Sanskrit symbol looks like a three with a smiley face? Now, how many times do we do that, but we don't have... I offer my obeisances. We offer our obeisances quite often. So, how many times are you fully conscious of what you're doing when you're offering obeisances? I'm saying I'm dedicating my life, I'm giving power of attorney for my destiny, my spiritual master. We're committing there's vows that we've taken. So every time we offer our obeisances, we're doing that. But are we conscious of it? We can do it without, there's the bounce, the bounce. Just kind of, and then you have to time it. If you're a little late, everybody's already up and you're still offering your obeisances. So there's different considerations, but if you do it with consciousness, that's what we're developing, it's actually a lot harder. Try it. See how, well, maybe everybody's already doing it. I know for myself, it's a lot harder to do things with consciousness. So if you build that consciousness into the Om when you offer obeisances, it opens, it puts it on Sattva Param Dhimahi. You're back on, the whole show is included in that. It's Krishna's there, you're seeing the external energy, internal energy, your choice. That because each one of us is an individual, what can we offer to Krishna? He has everything. He wants your love, so you put it in there, your gratitude. There's a system I've noticed I call it Thank You Yoga. Thank You Yoga. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens. Chapter 13, 8 through 12, humility. One has tolerance, which is what we're talking about, 2:14, tolerance. One has to learn to tolerate. He says this world is so constituted that you'll be given plenty of opportunities to tolerate. So in that tolerance, you can say thank you. And if you can do that, it's a yoga system. You'll be connected with all the different things that you were momentarily reacting without knowledge of. And because I also like to make things to remind myself of that, I say, smile, you're on candid karma. Because, gotcha, there was a little entrapment and I almost got you. But because of this thank you yoga, you can say, all right, now I remember that, you go through all the different verses that you remember, that no one can act unless they're sanctioned, and that these particular things are for my benefit, and actually I deserve much worse, I'm only getting a token, tatenu kampam. There's all these different ones, and then you can graduate to the first verse of the Nectar of Instruction, that one who has learned how to tolerate, then he's connected and he can represent the Super Soul. So I thank you very much for your kind attention. And if there's I don't know if there's time for a question. Oh, there's a question. All right. If Savasa, he's still smiling, so as long as he's smiling, I'll go.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I really appreciate your class, thank you. Just a quick question, I was wondering about tolerance, and we can see how tolerance is very beneficial for ourselves individually, but as a movement, if we just tolerate everything, then things will never improve.
So what things you tolerate and what things you don't tolerate? Well, the main quality that we're working on is this nirmatsurnam satam. That you familiar with the word? That nirmatsurnam satam. It's from the second verse, Dharma Prochita Kaitava. It says, completely rejecting all materially motivated religions, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those that are thoroughly pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Vyasadeva's maturity, he compiled this. What is the need of any other scripture? So it's malice. One has to be able to do everything without malice and with the objective of improving, just like a parent has to instruct their child, and according to the relationship, the child can perceive the affection in it. It has to be done with affection because a real quick story. My brother and I, we didn't get along. He was older than me, and he used to harass me like anything. And I finally got caught up to him around 16 in size and everything. And he was harassing me one day really bad. And I was strong then. So I picked him up and banged him against the wall. And my mother was there, and she almost went hysterical. She was so upset because they're both her children. So everybody is part and parcel of Krishna. And Lord Jesus Christ, he says, hate the sin, not the sinner. So you actually have to still love the person, and in one sense, because it always breaks down to people doing stuff that we're tolerating. The threefold miseries exist no longer, so that's also a trick. For the Nirmatsaram, the threefold miseries, that's the other part I left out, are destroyed at the root. So if you feel that there's something that needs to be corrected, you pray, of course, for the other person to make advancement so he'll also see that. So that way it eliminates the malice, mostly, and you're understanding this person is doing such wonderful service. Maybe if we can help them advance somehow or other, by, like with Prabhupada, he would look at you, and when he looked at you, you felt something that you never felt before. That I remember Abhirama once mentioned, he saw the best in you, and you felt obliged to live up to that. So when you see someone, you feel obliged to it. And like it was mentioned yesterday, the 1:17:22, he didn't mention the number because he can remember all the verses, but it says the identifier shares the same result as the mischief perpetrator. So if the heart is impure, if you see a fault in someone else, there's a mystic situation that you'll get that same fault that you're seeing in someone else. You'll actually inherit all the bad qualities from everybody that you see with that mentality. But if you see it without envy, with respect, that all respect is very important, then the good qualities you'll get. So everybody who has good qualities, even from a dog, how loyal they are. So when one learns how to offer all respect, because that includes the super soul's relationship with the individual soul and the whole process that Krishna has for the creation. Savas isn't smiling anymore. So, is that okay? All right, thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Since you're a numbers man. Which one? Gave me some portion of Mohan.